Hey friends, Pastor Bill Walden here with Build Up the Church. It's my teaching ministry. You can check things out at buildupthechurch.com. A lot of sermon notes there. Also have a YouTube channel just in case you're interested. Today's devotional is for February the 23rd, 2024, and it's out of Mark chapter 5. And we read the story about Jesus returning from the east side of the Sea of Galilee, the region of the Gadarenes, where he had cast thousands of demons out of a man. Now he's crossed back over the Sea of Galilee. He's on the west side of the lake, back in Jewish territory. And the crowds are thronging him. That's the word that Mark uses. They're just pressing upon him like crazy. Jesus is just getting bumped around and jostled and touched and run into by all kinds of people. I'm sure the disciples were trying to calm the crowd or protect Jesus, from any potential damage or attack or anything like that. But the crowd's just bumping him around like crazy. But we read about a woman who had an issue of blood. She was hemorrhaging. She had nonstop bleeding for 12 years. And the Bible says that she had spent all of her money on physicians, and she had only gotten worse, and now she was poor. According to Jewish law, when a woman was on her menstrual period, she was considered ceremonially unclean. But this woman was constantly unclean. She was forbidden to go to the temple. She was forbidden to have, she couldn't be married. Her husband would be considered ceremonially unclean. She couldn't touch anybody. How long had it been since she'd had a hug? She was ostracized by everyone in public. And so she was living desperately, but she heard about Jesus, and so she goes to him. And let me pick up the story here, Mark chapter 5, verse 25. A certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years. She'd suffered many things from the physicians. She spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse, presumably spending money on physicians and perhaps neglecting her nutritional needs, forsaking other necessities of life just to try to get better, to not only be physically better, but to be restored into society and to be restored into the religious life of the nation of Israel. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment, for she had said to herself, "If only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well." Now, her faith was awkward and superstitious. The Bible doesn't talk about touching somebody's clothes to express your faith. But the Jewish men were commanded in the Old Testament to wear tassels on each corner of their robe to remind them that they belonged to the nation of Israel, to the people of God. So for many, that became a point of pride and identity, also kind of a touchstone for this woman. She said, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, that place where his identity is expressed. And Jesus, as a Jewish man, undoubtedly had that kind of garment on, typical Jewish clothing for a man. And she said, if only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. So her faith was not orthodox, we might say, but it was in the person of Christ. And so as awkward as faith may be, what's more important is the object of faith. And Jesus was the object of her faith. Immediately the fountain of blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she had been healed of the affliction. And Jesus, this is very interesting. This is the only time this happens in the New Testament. Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" But his disciples said to him, "You see the multitude thronging you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" Now there were a lot of people touching Jesus, shall we say bumping into him, but nobody reaching out to him necessarily. They were bumping into him, perhaps in excitement, perhaps in curiosity, but she was reaching out to him in faith. So it wasn't the physical touch. It was that her touch was a touch of faith, a touch of expectancy, a touch of humility, a touch of desperation. I need to get to Jesus. The other people, who knows that they were bumping into him by accident or maybe getting pushed into him from behind, we don't know. But this woman's touch was different. It was a touch of faith. And though her faith was expressed in an unorthodox manner, yet the object of her faith, which is the important thing, the object of her faith was Jesus. It says, and he looked around to see her who had done this thing. So Jesus was able to identify her. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. Now she's fearing because she shouldn't have been in a crowd. She was religiously speaking, defiling everybody that bumped into her. None of them could go to the temple until they had gone through some kind of ceremonial cleaning. So she was where she didn't belong according to the culture. And she was undoubtedly looked down upon. Many times when people were suffering, the Jewish mindset was, well, you must have done something wrong to bring this upon yourself. So she was an outcast. Not only was she assuredly anemic and sick and unhealthy, she was also poor, may we say, maybe even broke, and a social outcast, and very alone. So she finds herself being discovered. She wasn't counting on that. She had just hoped for a physical healing. But Jesus, we're going to see here in such a beautiful way, is going to do more than physically heal her. He's going to restore her to society in a way that can't be doubted, and in a way that gives her not only physical healing, but the beginning of emotional and psychological and mental healing and cultural healing. Listen to this. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." So he calls her daughter, a term of endearment. He didn't say woman. He didn't say outcast. He didn't say ma'am. He says daughter. You're a daughter of God. You're my sister, if you will, in the nation of Israel. Jesus was a highly respected rabbi, and he says, and you belong to me. And so he's restoring her socially and culturally. He also says to her, your faith has made you well. This wasn't an accident. You don't have to worry if it's going to come back. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't happenstance. You don't have to spend the rest of your life wondering, how did this happen? And what do I have to do to keep it from happening again? How do I keep this affliction away from me? Jesus said it was your faith. And he also said that in front of people, not just for her, but for them, that they would know that she was a woman of faith. And he says, go in peace. You don't need to worry about this anymore, and be healed of your affliction. You don't have to worry that it's going to come back. So Jesus is not only healing her body, he's assuring her that it was an act of faith. As awkward as that act of faith was, that's secondary to the fact that Jesus was the object of her faith. And in her awkward way, she expressed her very sincere faith, and Jesus met her at her place of need. And then he not only restores her physically, as I said, but he restores her culturally. He restores her to society. He restores her to her religious, her spiritual world, her church family, if you will. He restores the whole person, and Jesus loves to restore the whole person. So put Jesus as the object of your faith and reach out and touch him. Thanks for watching.